Hello everyone, welcome back to the Global Conflict News channel. Please subscribe my channel because today we are going on a very long and detailed journey into the world of anti-aircraft weapons, and the focus will be on two icons of military technology that have shaped ground-to-air defense for nearly a century: the American M2 Browning heavy machine gun and the Soviet-designed ZU-23 twin-barrel autocannon. And in this long explanation we will look at their history, their appearance, their inner workings, their battlefield performance, their safety features, what makes them unique, their price, and the lessons they leave behind for future warfare. And we will go step by step with no rush, so that by the end of this you will feel as though you were standing beside these weapons, operating them and understanding every detail that makes them so important. When we think of anti-aircraft defense, the first images that come to mind are usually missiles launching into the sky chasing after jets, but before the missile era and even long after it, one of the most reliable methods of protecting troops, convoys and bases from aircraft was the heavy gun mounted on the ground or on vehicles, firing streams of bullets or explosive shells into the air. The story of the M2 Browning begins in the early 20th century during World War I. John Browning, the legendary American firearms designer, saw the need for a weapon that could deliver massive firepower against both aircraft and lightly armored vehicles. He based his new design around a scaled-up cartridge, the .50 BMG, which had extraordinary range and penetration, and by the late 1930s the weapon was perfected and put into wide service. During World War II it became famous for its reliability, simplicity and sheer destructive capability, and it was used everywhere: on tanks, jeeps, ships, aircraft, and as a standalone anti-aircraft gun. On the other side, the Soviet Union developed the ZU-23 in the early 1960s during the Cold War era, when low-flying attack aircraft and helicopters were a growing threat to ground forces. The design philosophy was different. While the M2 Browning was essentially a heavy machine gun adapted to multiple roles, the ZU-23 was created from the beginning as a dedicated anti-aircraft system. It mounted two 23mm autocannons side by side on a wheeled carriage with a gunner's seat, aiming sights and manual controls. It was larger, heavier and more complex, but also dramatically more powerful, with explosive shells that could tear apart aircraft in seconds. If we were to stand beside the M2 Browning, the first impression would be its rugged and no-nonsense exterior: a long steel receiver, a massive barrel often shrouded to handle heat, and a feed tray where belts of .50 caliber cartridges are laid out ready to be pulled into the chamber. The weapon looks intimidating, but at the same time simple in form. Every line and every surface has a purpose. Nothing is decorative, everything is functional. Mounted on a tripod, it dominates its position. When placed on a vehicle turret, it looks like a natural extension of armor, ready to unleash deadly firepower. Now picture the ZU-23. Its exterior is entirely different. It is not a single gun but a full mount with twin barrels sticking out like the fangs of a beast, connected to large ammunition boxes with linked belts of 23mm rounds. The weapon sits on a wheeled base that allows it to be towed behind a truck and quickly deployed in the field. There is a gunner's seat and a system of handles, wheels and optics that allow the operator to swing the barrels up, down and side to side, tracking targets in the sky. It looks more like a small artillery piece than a machine gun, and its size and presence on the battlefield make it unmistakable. Inside the M2 Browning, the operation is based on short recoil. The energy from each fired round drives the bolt backward, extracting the spent cartridge and chambering a new one. The firing pin strikes the primer and the cycle continues as long as the trigger is pressed and ammunition is supplied. The simplicity of the mechanism means fewer things can go wrong under stress. The moving parts are large and durable, designed to withstand dirt, dust and extreme conditions. Soldiers in every conflict have praised the M2 for the way it just keeps firing even after thousands of rounds. Inside the ZU-23, each barrel works on a gas-operated system. When a round is fired, gases are vented through a port in the barrel, driving a piston that cycles the action, ejecting the empty case and feeding the next shell. The presence of two barrels working together means the rate of fire is doubled, and because the shells are 23mm, they carry small explosive charges, making every hit on an aircraft devastating. The interior of the mount includes gears and levers that allow fine control of elevation and traverse, and this is why the weapon normally requires a trained crew, not just a single shooter. Performance is where comparisons become dramatic. The M2 Browning fires the .50 BMG round with a muzzle velocity of nearly 900 meters per second. Its effective range against aircraft is about 2 kilometers, though accuracy drops at longer distances. It can fire between 450 and 600 rounds per minute depending on the model and setup. This might sound modest compared to modern autocannons, but its advantage lies in versatility. Those same .50 caliber rounds can penetrate light armor, destroy vehicles, suppress infantry, and even damage radar and communication equipment. It is a true multi-role weapon. The ZU-23 by contrast unleashes pure volume of fire. Each barrel can fire at about 1,000 rounds per minute, giving a combined rate of 2,000 rounds per minute. The 23x 152mm shells leave the barrel at around 970 meters per second and can reach aircraft up to 2.5 kilometers in altitude. The destructive power of these explosive shells is enormous. A short burst can shred the wings of a low-flying jet or helicopter, and because the system can traverse quickly, it can sweep across the sky, laying down curtains of fire. This difference in performance explains why the ZU-23 became such a favorite in many wars, especially for defending convoys and bases against sudden air attack. Safety is always critical with such powerful weapons. The M2 Browning has a simple manual safety lever and requires the operator to cock the charging handle before firing. Training emphasizes safe loading, clearing jams, and handling recoil. Misfires are rare if the weapon is properly maintained, and crews often speak of its trustworthiness. The ZU-23 has its own safety measures. The barrels can be locked in place during transport. The firing system has safeguards against accidental discharge, and because it requires a crew, the procedures emphasize coordination so that no one is in the line of fire and ammunition is handled carefully. Overheating is a risk with sustained fire, so crews are trained to manage bursts and swap barrels when necessary. When we ask what makes each weapon unique, the answers are clear. The M2 Browning is legendary for its longevity and adaptability. It has fought in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Middle East, Afghanistan, and countless smaller conflicts, and it is still in service today in dozens of countries. It is mounted on Humvees, tanks, helicopters, boats, and even tripods. It is one of the few weapons where soldiers from 3 generations could meet and all recognize the same gun, still firing reliably. The ZU-23 stands out for its raw firepower and the way it has been adapted for unconventional warfare. While designed for anti-aircraft roles, it is often mounted on pickup trucks known as technicals, creating highly mobile and terrifying weapons platforms. In Africa, the Middle East, and Eastern Europe, insurgents and militias have used them for both air defense and ground attack. Their ability to unleash explosive firepower quickly makes them ideal for fast hit-and-run tactics. Price is always an important consideration. Militaries value weapons that are affordable and easy to maintain. The M2 Browning costs around $15,000 per unit depending on the configuration. Spare parts are cheap and ammunition is widely available because the .50 BMG round has been in production for almost a century. The ZU-23, on the other hand, is more expensive. A full system with its carriage optics and barrels can cost up to $100,000, though second-hand units from surplus stock are often much cheaper, which explains their spread among non-state actors. The ammunition is also heavier and more costly, but the destructive effect is proportionally greater. So when we come to the conclusion, the question arises, which is the better anti-aircraft gun? The answer depends entirely on the situation. If the goal is a versatile weapon that can serve in dozens of roles, from ground suppression to vehicle mounting to light anti-aircraft, the M2 Browning remains unbeatable. It is cost-effective, reliable, and flexible. If the goal is raw anti-aircraft power against helicopters, drones, and low-flying jets, the ZU-23 is clearly superior. With its twin barrels, high rate of fire, and explosive shells, it can create a defensive shield of fire that no heavy machine gun can match. Militaries often use both systems in complementary roles, one providing multi-purpose firepower, the other delivering concentrated anti-air defense. Both weapons symbolize different design philosophies: the American approach of creating a single versatile gun that could do everything and do it reliably versus the Soviet approach of creating specialized heavy firepower at the cost of mobility and complexity. Yet both have survived for decades, proving that in war there is no single solution. Sometimes you need the simple rugged workhorse, and sometimes you need the fire-breathing monster that scares aircraft out of the sky. And that is why even today, in the 21st century, when missiles and drones dominate the headlines, you will still find the M2 Browning and the ZU-23 in action, serving faithfully wherever they are needed. And that is the long story of how to fire and understand the M2 Browning and the ZU-23, two giants of ground-based anti-aircraft defense. Thank you for staying with this explanation, and remember to subscribe to Global Conflict News for more deep dives into the weapons and technologies that shape our world.